It's like asking students to
Yes.
come over.
Please, don't be shy. Come back. Come in front. You will not suspend.
I take this as you wear better grades if you are on the front.
Exactly.
Can I call Igor to come around?
Sure.
Igor? 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 Would you like to join us? Yes? Is there any other students? A student as well, Carla?
Yeah, they're there. So,
Carla?
this part I
Will you
think is
join us?
visible, and I don't think the back part is visible. But I think that can be answered by Sylvia best.
It's okay, I was talking. Estava a falar para esta Carla. Estava a falar para aquela Carla. Sorry, can you anyone else in the room?
We have Carla, we have Joe, also. Joe is the
Joe, yes. Joe?
You could also sit here.
Of course. We don't want to be on our own here.
Very solitary.
Yes. The stage is a lonely place.
Yeah, exactly.
Sí, 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 donde quieras por ahí. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. My name is Konstantina Zerva. I would like to welcome you all to the Faculty of Tourism of the University of Girona on this nice cloudy day. The purpose of today's meeting, as you already know, is to speak about different experiences regarding the connection of education with the professional sector. There are many forms that can be done, and here we are studying a particular form that has to do with dual bachelor degrees and dual degrees in general in the sector of tourism. Now, tourism, as you already know, is not a discipline, is a combination of different disciplines and has a very practical effect. So what we're interested in is to see how can collaboration with different businesses throughout the entire years of the degree can actually help students become more professional, more prepared, more aware of what are the challenges of the market today, connecting part, of course, of the academic and theoretical knowledge they get from a university, but also the reality of a business, of different businesses, and according to the way that is done and formatted in each degree, how can that mature them, and when they go out and work, how can they become more prepared to face the market challenges. The tourism sector is a very competitive sector. Things happen that drastically change an existing situation, so we have to be always very well prepared and quick in response. Working in a business can help us, in a way, see how, in a specific sector, people do try to respond to the market in a very quick way. It's important for us to see how our students can actually get some profit from this business. So it's nice to see today experiences from different factors, from different sectors, from the student's point of view, from the business point of view, from the government point of view. We have some people that are online because we live in a digital era, so some of them could not be here today, but of course they're listening to us right now, and we will give them some moment also later on for them to do their own expositions and presentations. The idea generally would be that at the end of all presentations we can have our questions and our doubts, any opinion, any remark. Only in some particular case I would ask you to have any questions in the case of a German student that is online and that has to leave later on, therefore she will not be at the end of the whole session to give any answer if needed. But in any case, I think it's going to be a nice productive moment, so it's nice to see what we all have to say about this idea, and I'm just gonna stop talking now. Thank you and welcome you all again for being here. Now we start today with the presentation of Goretti Silva, who is the coordinator of the Income Tourism Project, and please.
Thank you. Can you switch on my micro? Yes. Well, as Constantine was saying, our project was born from the idea behind the fact that tourism sector is about providing services and particularly memorable experiences. In order to be memorable, these experiences have to have a focus on excellence and on customer services. In order to prepare our professionals and our students, we acknowledge the relevance of soft skills in that experiences and in the delivery of those experiences. So the industry, the tourism employers have been recognizing the relevance of soft skills as relevant for their business performance and competitiveness. Based on that, we also performed some research before we applied for this grant, which is under Erasmus Plus Knowledge Alliances, and we realized that from our research and from going through the state of the art, the market needs regarding soft skills are much bigger than what the HIEs offer nowadays, or in the ways they are delivering their courses. The soft skills are not getting enough attention from education. And based on that, we could understand that we have limited understanding of employers' requirements and needs are, and in the end, we find a mismatch between market needs and students' performance. So in order to address this, we prepared this application and we got a grant, which is a 3-year program, which will help us to address the fact and the perception that if we want to address soft skills, we can't do it on our own. We can't do it in classrooms, in frontal teaching and self-learning. So we are trying to develop, aiming at coming up with a model or methodology inspired by dual education and inspired by one of our partners, which is based in Ravensburg in Germany, which actually will help us to bring together in a cooperative learning process higher education and tourism businesses, organizations. And we say businesses is not only privately owned businesses, can be public sector as well, can be non-profit organizations, but in the end what we want is to, together with these organizations, to prepare the students for the development of the necessary skills, particularly focusing on these soft skills, which is behavioral transversal skills. The project is a consortium with 13 partners, and this project is now in its mid-term, let's say, halfway through. It involves partners from Spain, University of Girona, where we are. Thank you for welcoming us here for our 5th steering committee meeting, and together with University of Girona and Atlas, again, one of our other partners, we are organizing this workshop and this webinar as one of the activities we would really like to embrace, and thanks to them we did, in order to spread the word of what the benefits and challenges of cooperation between universities and businesses are. The other partners are also based in Italy, in German, as I said, Ravensburg. We have in Italy, University of Bergamo, NGV, another private partner, in Malta, Malta University Consulting and MBB, and the Center of Reserves in Montserrat, again here in Girona. And we also have 2 other partners. One of them is Portuguese, which is the representatives of the private sector, CEVAL, and it's very important for us to have these private businesses within the consortium because they bring their perspective, the businesses, the market and the organization's perspective, and together with the universities and then with the students that are part of our program, we help to develop this model. And also PPLEL, which is a private consultancy. What we are doing in WINCOM, as I said, we are addressing this mismatch and with all the private partners and bringing other private partners, which we call them associated partners. We are aiming at developing this new learning cooperative model. So far, and that's at the moment we've developed a soft skills needs assessment closely with and from the perspective of both students and the businesses. We did work on standardizing what is perceived, believed amongst this group of partners and participants to be a standardized soft skills curriculum, and we've been through the development of the model, with a strong and great input from our colleagues from Ravensburg, based on their experience on dual education, as you said yourself, which is being put into practice in many contexts for decades, but still difficult to implement in other places, like, for instance, in our case, in the case of our universities. And now, we are just starting with a pilot, and means we are now getting into this challenging process of bringing the businesses into the development of, we call it syllabus or programs, and together with the professors from the universities, we are now addressing which soft skills and in what ways they will be working with the students on their premises, meaning the students will not be getting inputs only at the classrooms, but they will be mainly going to the businesses, and on a daily operation basis, they will be dealing with the situations that will hopefully, we believe in that, help them to develop these so important skills. Being now almost or nearly after 1 year and a half, we've been developing most of our tools in terms of knowledge and instruments for delivering this program. One of the tools is what we call this Cooperative Model. It involves bringing theory in the sense of we bring the professors, we bring the university staff to the process. They meet on a regular basis, they discuss, they work on different kinds of approaches with the businesses, and we come to a point where we agree, and they agreed on what we can expect as experiences and on how these experiences will help the students to get better profiles and more employability skills. The model involves a strong and very close cooperation approach, as I said. The education plan is based on inputs from the companies. Therefore, we are very much business-centered, and these contributes are the ones informing what the process of one academic year spreading in different curricular units will be about. And hopefully, at the end of this process, we will have tested the approach we developed. It can be on a very specific way, according to which university. It has a special focus on practical placement of the students being at the business's context for a couple of hours. We define an amount of hours. It's hard to go through the whole process, but in the end, the students will have to go to the businesses on a regular basis, and the regular basis means different things for different contexts, for the different universities taking part in this process, but in the end, they will go through a significant number of hours to the businesses, and the process is now showing its potential and its difficulties. The difficulties is the ones we felt before we started, that's why we started the project, is that it's challenging to bring the university and the business together. The challenges are based on different factors. We believe that this businesses, smallness, tourism businesses are mainly micro and small businesses. Their smallness, the fact that they lack a structured department for human resources management, and or even a human resources manager puts them in a situation of not having enough resources to deal with what we call, we can call them trainees or work-based students or whatever name we use to bring the students to the businesses. But the perception is that they have trouble facing the challenges of having these students as some of their staff, even if it's on a provisional basis. Also, I think there's still, and we think is still a little perception about the benefits of having this process together. From the perspective of the higher education institutions, we also face some difficulties, some challenges to overcome. We are still facing in many contexts. It can be because of the cultural based realities, but also from mentalities that still put too much bureaucracy in front of new methodologies, or we still find many barriers in order to implement new approaches, new methods to teach that are different from traditional teaching and on a school-based approach. And also, I think there's still a lack of perception from the board members, professors, and students about the benefits of the process. Because it requires a bit more of their time, it requires a bit more of their own emotional investment, a bit more of their motivational investment, because working together is, you know, probably in many contexts a challenge. Working on our own means managing, controlling for all the factors, for all the time management and for all the outcomes. And working with the others, working with, in this case, professors working with the business means not controlling for the whole process, and it's sometimes a challenge. Surprisingly, also from the students' perspective, we still find some, how to say, some challenging, some resistance as well. The students often ask us for more practical approaches, but when they are given these opportunities, they don't take these approaches as far as they could, because it also involves more of their time, more of their commitment, and more of their responsibility, and therefore means they also stand back when they are given the chance. But in the end, if we succeed within the context of income partnership and hopefully in a wider context, I think we can reach a higher qualification of our students, a bigger match between market needs and the students' profile, and hopefully a greater integration of young people into the labor market. So I hope we manage to overcome these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coretti. Well, this presentation really helped us a little bit to understand what about the project is, to see what are the challenges, what are the difficulties we could be facing and we are already facing, to see the different perspectives from people of the sector, opinions from students on a general level, and try to prepare ourselves best way possible. It is true that, for example, in our bachelor degree, students, when they finish their training in the third year, and they come back from working for 3 months in the tourism sector, they're different. They're a little bit more mature. So it would be nice to see how we can incorporate that from the beginning instead of waiting in the third year for them to actually face the business and see the challenges of the professional sector. Now I would like for us to hear Sheena Carlisle, if I pronounce well the name, that is a member of the New Tourism Generation projects. She's not here with us, so we will have our first digital and online communication here. So I hope that goes well, because usually it's not a success. So how would that be? This is the presentation.
She's in control of it, I think.
Okay, so we can see her, yes. Hello, good morning, Sheena. But we can't listen.
She has turned on her sound.
Can you please turn on the microphone, because we cannot listen to you? No, it's...
Who is controlling the presentation should turn on. If you're controlling, then just...
Am I controlling it? That's a good question.
I don't know. Just go on her. On her name. I know, so she has to do the same.
Unmute?
Go to her picture and try to do unmute as well. Yeah? I know. So she's controlling it, it's okay. She needs to do it her.
You would need to unmute the program, the microphone, because we cannot listen to you. Great. We are not... Yes, I am...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the typical technical problems of always.
Can you hear us, Sheena?
Can you hear us?
Not if you hear us.
If we can't
She
hear
can
you.
hear us. Okay, we cannot hear you, but she can hear us. This is one step done. I have...
Do we have the speakers on?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I have no idea.
She needs to unmute.
I think that you need to unmute your microphone because we have it on. It says that it's mute. Now it's not. Can you speak? Yes, but we cannot hear you. No way. Yes, please, Luis. We have a technical now coming, so do not be an alarm. Soon we will be able to listen to you. Yes, please.
Maybe if you want to unplug this just to see if we are getting the audio.
Yeah. Talk, please.
No, so it's on the presentation there.
Yeah.
So this is okay.
Smartphone. Here. In theory, we pick up the speaker from here.
She needs to do something on her side, I think.
Please wait just a moment. Okay. So now we have both that are off. Hers is on, but they should be off. They should all be off. But I don't know how to.
Just take something.
Yes.
Something with audio here. Speakers. No. Thing. She doesn't speak, no? Please speak. Put some audio.
Hello, Sheena?
Can you say something? She said no.
No,
No la vemos tampoco.
No. She's doing something.
Hi.
This microphone.
Well,
Solve. Okay.
maybe she can speak now.
Speak blah 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 blah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
that's right.
yes.
You can hear me now?
oh yes, great.
Excellent. Oh, there we go. Good, good.
Higher. Think with the level.
Just put the level up a little bit.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm sorry for that. We always have a problem, so this time this was the problem, but we faced it. So please feel free to speak.
Okay, okay. So thank you very much for inviting me today. Today I'm just going to really give you a very brief summary of the NTG project, but just mainly also to focus on what Goretti was talking about earlier, on the need to really improve the collaboration between the tourism industry and tourism education providers, in particular universities. Okay, so if I just run through just a few background points about the NTG project. So it involves 14 partners across Europe, 6 of which are universities and 7 trade associations and Atlas, which is, of course, the student network in Europe. We're working across 5 different sectors in tourism. And the main goal of the project is to provide a blueprint strategy for tourism education and for industry and for government to really push sustainability and digital skills into the tourism sector. So this is the project. It started in January 18 and it goes on till end of 2021. So the main focus of the project is really to look at how this relationship between education and tourism industry can be really improved. And we're using digital and sustainability skills as a means to progress that relationship. So we've already done a very comprehensive piece of research across Europe in the 8 different countries. And the resounding result is that there is a very large gap in digital and environmental management and social sustainability skills. So this was across the board in many different sectors, and this is the main focus of the project, to try and see how these skills, which are fast changing skills, of course, digital skills are moving all the time, and it's difficult sometimes for training providers to keep up with the pace that industry is moving. But also, obviously, from a point of view of environmental skills, these are becoming increasingly important for many different reasons to try and support natural resource management, conservation, and energy resource management. And so we were going to be, also as a result of this, is using these skill sets to try and improve the image of working in tourism. And there's somehow quite a negative perception of working in the industry. And also there are many skills which are perhaps not recognized within students, or careers that are perhaps hidden, and new skill sets that can be quite hidden, and we want to bring those out. So a lot of the project is focusing on tools which would be useful for industry as to how they can really bring these skill sets into their business, and whether they're a small micro business or a medium-sized business. So there'll be a number of different tools coming out of the project: a toolkit, a skills matrix that identifies many different skill sets, and a comprehensive toolkit of guidelines and models as to how businesses really bring these skills. So let's go back a bit to the thinking about the university that teaches tourism management or tourism studies or hospitality management, for example. There are a huge number of programs across Europe and, of course, across Spain, where tourism is taught at universities. So it's important for universities to remember that they are very much part of the landscape of tourism, but in particular, the role in which universities can have in working with industry. But of course, there are many other organisations such as trade associations, sector skills councils, chamber of commerce. There are apprenticeship programmes that are happening. There are regional skills partnerships. Of course, every country has a Department of Education, and universities need to be much more locked in to these different networks and organisations that support skills development in tourism. And of course, trade unions, for example, they represent workers. And again, tourism universities should be aware of the issues that are facing workers within the industry. And then, of course, we have schools. One thing that's becoming very apparent, and I keep hearing here in Wales, is that attitudes about particular industries start very young, and so that we're also looking at how the relationship between school education can also influence perception of working in the industry. And there are a number of really exciting projects where industry is linking into school education as well. So universities really play a key role in this very wide and varied landscape. And in every country, of course, it's very, very different. And every country has its own tourism skills landscape. So this is a key area that we will be looking at in the project. So we can see that if university was to link up in a much more proactive way with industry, students could work on a number of different sort of student in action projects or industry-based projects. And I'll go on to just explaining that a little bit. But also, if industry is really thinking about innovation in their training system or human resource development or increasing staff retention and staff knowledge in a particular area, such as digital or sustainability skill sets, this is an area that industry could collaborate with different universities to look at models of practice, to find different methods of delivery. And so in the NTG project, we're trying to identify different mechanisms and different methods and different cases of good practice for training. And universities can get involved with this type of work. And obviously it reflects on the type of business that they're working with. Of course, every tourism business is unique and different, and according to their size and type of business, the sector that they're working in, and how many employees they're working in. But tourism departments should have some capacity to respond to some of the needs which businesses have. So in a way, universities can be seen almost like a skills megastore. If you think about how many students actually are studying tourism in Girona, you know, that's a good wide number of people that a business should be able to draw on their expertise. Now, I'm not saying that all students are perfect, and of course, you know, all students are on a learning journey, but they will also represent a young, youthful generation, and they have good ideas, they have, you know, they see the world differently, perhaps, and they can provide a lot of good ideas and content. And some of these projects, they might relate to product development or market research or rebranding or strategic development. Obviously, this depends on what the business actually requires and what the what the research needs actually are. So this is where that we hope that the tools that we're providing and the guidelines that we're providing to businesses can really support this one key area of university and business collaboration. And so within these tools, we would also try to capture that. And so finally, I think both industry and universities have a really key role. Excuse me. We all have a key role and responsibility to play in trying to really emphasize what the opportunities are in working in tourism. And sometimes I think tourism jobs can be seen in quite a, maybe people think it's seasonal, maybe they think it's low paid. And sometimes young people don't realize the senior management positions or, you know, the real success stories of entrepreneurs in tourism and hospitality, people who've really gone on a long journey in a career in tourism. And students need to be exposed to what these success stories are. And so businesses can play a really key role in supporting that positive image of working in tourism. And so these are some of the key areas anyway. This is a very brief presentation, but hopefully it's just provided some food for thought about how we can really move forward for the next tourism generation. And of course, if you'd like to contact me, please do. And also we have the website as well, the Next Tourism Generation .eu. Okay, so thank you very much. That's everything.
Thank you very much, Ina, for the presentation and giving us some more specific information about the importance of the specific skills that our students are going to gain after this collaboration takes place and all of the things that you are trying and experimenting. Now we are going to listen to the opinion and the point of view and the perspective of the business sector, of the professional sector. And for that reason, we have here with us Jordi Mias, who is as a representative of the Girona Costa Brava Centre Hotel. As he's also a very good professor of our faculty. And please, give us your opinion.
Hello. It's okay now? Yeah. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for this quick invitation. Actually, I have just a few minutes before going back to class and going back to work. Again, as you said, I'm currently working as general manager here in a hotel in Girona, but at the same time, I'm the president of Costa Brava Verd Hotels, which is a local independent hotel association where each and every member, independent, small, run, 90% of them family-run hotels, they all have the same, let's say, the same power within the organization, the same shares. So it's a cooperative model business in this sense. When we look on the area of relationship between hotels, family-run hotels, seasonally hotels, and training or internships within our organization, we mainly face a lot of challenges. And recently, we've seen them increasingly. First of all, the way tourism studies have developed in terms of curricula and the way our area in hospitality have evolved into more technical and in-depth analysis data that we need in our companies. So the first thing we find is a quick and a big gap between what is being taught at the faculties and probably what is being needed as technical skills in the real life. Therefore, the main situation we encounter year after year is that difference between expectations between students that we get and expectation that owners and hotels we have. Therefore, with that difference in expectation, there's already dissatisfaction encountering on first stage, sometimes on that student. Sometimes it's the first time they got into a real hotel business, and you know, first impressions matters, and if that first impression between the business is not that good, we might see that frustration appearing on early stages at students. And when I arrive at university on 4th grade, I only teach one subject at 4th grade, which is hotel management. I really see that many of the students, they don't really would like sometimes to continue, not in the hospitality, not in the tourism world, but more specifically on our business, on the hotel business, because of that, you know, that probably not so good experience that they recently had. And that's something that we need to approach and try to sometimes, you know, probably lower expectations from one side and higher on the other side to find an equal. And that's quite tough. And by that, I don't mean that we don't partnership with faculties. We do. I mean, at the present moment, even personally at the hotel in Girona, we have now internships from students from Taiwan. I mean, we have international students. But the main thing is that we would like to differentiate what will be more technical positions, and those probably wouldn't come from college nor university. That will probably come from, you know, more technical schools, culinary schools, service schools, and what it's more difficult to put in our hotels will be that college students where we, again, and as I said in the beginning, we are having some issues to find skills more related into data analysis and more in-depth marketing and internet content, and probably subjects that still are not being pretty much taught at colleges. So for us, that will be probably the main gap. And even though we are doing some progresses, and as a matter of fact, here at the Faculty of Girona, this probably will be the fourth or the third year that the faculty has introduced specific subject on a real cooperation between companies and the faculty itself, where all teachers from that specific subject are private professionals from the private sector teaching what is the real life in the hospitality environment here in Girona or Costa Brava. And to me, that's already the beginning of something really important, where outsiders teach classes, and then each of these, and then again, there's a cooperation with companies or hotels in that case, where we mentor one of those students accordingly what is being taught in class. So that probably it's the main issue that we are now seeing that is really important, and that might be something really valuable for the future. However, this is only done in a limited number of students, and I think here, if we ask them, both parts or three parts, students, professionals teaching class, and then hotels involved, that gap between expectations from both sides is really, really diminished, and almost doesn't exist any gap difference. I mean, there are high expectations from students, which are highly met by those professionals. Professionals and hotel members really can teach a specific subject that then those students can apply as specific projects in those companies. And for the first time, we see that we might get closer to find that almost tailor-made education for that specific and limited number of students, which also is a number of students that, again, could fill also a very limited number of positions in the real world, because we don't need to forget that we are talking about an area where seasonality affects a lot. And that means that sometimes most of those companies, even though their main operation is in a limited time during the year, 7-8 months, there are only few hotels that can unfortunately run the operation for the entire 12 months, and that sometimes offers some challenges and limitations for the company. However, we see that those students that we normally take those courses and they have that relation are for positions that they can normally be done all year round, which is, again, something really good, not only for the students, but also for the companies, that they can really take good value from these students. And I don't know if that's enough vision, or you need more detail. But again, and with Sylvia at the end, she's really fully aware of that quite success of that subject. Again, I mean, now it's mainly focused on the hospitality, mainly on hotels. But that was something that we, from the private sector, we demand for a very long time. I mean, hey, faculty, this is the real world, this is what we need now. And then the faculty said, okay, let's do something. Let's put in between all the resources. Let's find the best students who really would like to take into the hospitality world, not in grade, but really the ones willing to continue to that path. So they have already a motivation there. Again, professionals and companies, and the three blocks are doing a good job, and hopefully that will be a beginning, not only in the hospitality, but in different areas of the tourism sector that we could approach and narrow down and do this tailor-made education that it's really, I mean, if I had to go back to study, I would love to have a subject like that 20 years ago, which I didn't. So now nothing much to say that thank the faculty for, make this happen and improve with this new subject that you are about to create.
Thank you very much, Jordi. It's really important for us to know from the very beginning what is the opinion of the private sector regarding the education that we are providing to our students, and see up to which point the skills we have decided, academically speaking, to provide them would be enough for them to stand out in the business sector. And on many occasions, we see that the private sector wants something a little bit different, a little bit more demanding, probably a little more specific, more centered. And the more we know about that, and the more we can communicate that to our students, and not on a theoretical level, because we do say it to the students that they need to be like that, but that's a theoretical thing we say. They do not see it, they do not live it. They don't have a boss telling them, you're not doing it correctly for this reason. And that affects in a way. So for us, it is very important for them to be in touch personally, physically, with the business sector, and that is why we have professors like Jordi who actually represent that sector and try to pass as much knowledge as they can in the classroom. But this, of course, happens in the classroom, and once they go to the hotel, in that case, reality is different, even though the person who says the same thing is the same person. Because you have to go, because we have classes, and you have to go back to the hotel. If anybody has a question or a doubt or something that they want to share with Jordi, please do it now that he's here with us.
If not, I'll be in B1 till 11:30. So.
If nobody else does, I would ask. First of all, I would like to thank Jordi because he's also one of our ambassadors within Income Project, right? Oh, okay, sorry. So he's always been an ambassador.
Almost, yeah.
Although not an ambassador, he's a good ambassador in a sense. He really went to the point where we all are going within Income. And to my presentation, that is, he said two or three things which we are really in accordance with, so we agree that much. Thank you for being an ambassador.
Thank you.
All of them were really interesting, but bringing the students, universities, and the business together, as he said, is proved to be the best approach, meaning we are addressing the needs of the companies through expertise of the universities and with the right motivation from the students. So
that's it.
That's the best trio, and we are approaching these trios within Income as well. So we are bringing these trios together in order to prepare and to develop their education, in this case for soft skills. And also, as Jordi said, we are in a world where there are big expectations from students sometimes, and a mismatch between what they bring from universities when they get into the real world. That's why within Income, we try to bring the real world into the university before we launch our students to the real world. So we bring them all together. So in the end, I think we are really working in the same direction and approaching, and I believe now, even to a greater deal that income is the right way of approaching things, not only because we have very, very good examples from previous examples as Ravensburg dual system. Their system is very much in accordance with what we are doing as well within Girona University and within income, so we are all pretty much. And the question is, how, how would you say are the challenges of having this being done to a greater extent with universities? What really is why is taking long for the universities to do things in this way to a greater extent? Not just you or one singular unit, but to a greater extent.
I wouldn't know what to answer to these questions, but not just to be politically correct. However, we've seen, and that's also my point of view, that, for instance, in the sense we did these topics here at the Faculty of Girona, of course, people who's taking classes are, and that's the first thing I always say to the students the first day in class, hey, I'm not a professor, I'm a hotel manager, and I'm here to explain and, communicate with you how we do things in a different manner that probably a professor will do. So less theory and more real stuff in that sense. So that's probably one of the biggest challenges that probably in some way also I don't know, to define not training in the way to teach, because it's not this, even though we as manager, we as professional on a daily basis, we need to deal with employees in a way of training, but when you see students, it's different. You know that to me, they are my clients. I mean, again, they have expectations, okay, I need to learn, I'm here to learn, so that's my main goal. And sometimes, I would say, that size and doing in small classes, probably it could be one of the biggest challenges, because challenges at some point, or the assets, because you can really tailor-made and narrow down to each and every student, focusing on detail, which we actually do. I mean, classes size are, I think, 15 students maximum, which you can really take into detail each and every student, and you can spend more time on one specific student based on their needs as well. So, trying to answer your question, why it's taking too long? Well, first of all, things take some time also to put in place, and then, well, to that extent, if we are thinking now in the tourist faculty was, I don't know, in 4th grade, how many students are? Probably there are 80 or 90 students enrolled, and in that particular class there are only 15 of them. So that automatically would put the faculty in a situation where they will split in such number of classes and groups and topics that probably they will need to think about a little bit. So I don't know, that could be one of the challenges.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hi. Could I just ask a question?
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
I don't, who's talking?
Hi.
Sheena's talking.
Sheena, yes.
Thank. Yeah. No. I really appreciate what you just.
I was looking and
Nobody's opening the mouth.
Sheena, can you turn on your camera?
Can you hear me?
we do
We can
hear
hear
you.
you, we just cannot see
Okay.
you, but we can hear you.
No, I think what you're saying is really really interesting and also inspiring. And I think the more that students can really experience the issues which are going on for businesses, so that it's as real as possible. And of course, I think one way is to do that in the classroom. But the more that we can look at a range of different approaches to getting the students engaged with the issues which the business is facing, and the challenges or specific maybe problems or challenges which a business is trying to deal with. And I think that's where a group of students working on a specific project can really learn from the business, but it almost needs to be a two-way relationship, so that in order to engage businesses, they need with universities, they need to feel that they're getting some value, and it's not just all the business investing in their time in the university, but they are also feeling that they're getting value from that relationship. And I think that's where one of the reasons why it doesn't happen a lot in universities is that it takes time to build a relationship and build a concrete type of collaboration that can add value on both sides. And I think that's where it takes some investment with getting staff, lecturers to go outside of the university to build relationships with local businesses, so that the businesses can understand in what way they might benefit. And I think sometimes that's not always clear as to why or how a business might engage with a university, and they're seen as these big kind of concrete buildings that maybe are just too theoretical and not presenting the practical approach that is needed in the business. But I do, having taught in tourism education for about 18 years, I think we're starting to move. There's definitely more interest and more commitment to teaching students something that is much more tangible and real and aggressive and innovative, and rather than just theorizing a lot. So yeah, I think the more that through the projects, through the income, through the NTG, the more that we can capture what works and what works well and how we can improve, and yeah, that's great. So yeah, I guess we just need more. We need more people like you to introduce people.
There's, I can tell you there's a lot of people out there also willing to cooperate and participate, so we are on the good way. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordi. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Sheena, for the question and the remark. And now it would be interesting to move on a little bit to the experience and the perspective of the students, and see how they live it and what is their experience, what is their expectation on this kind of activities. So to begin, we're going to start from a student that's called Mari Gerken, and she's from Ravensburg. And I don't know if she can listen to us.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you, we can see you. Everything's perfect this time.
Perfect.
So please, good morning, and please explain us your perspective about this training program.
Of course. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me. My name is Marie. I'm 27 years old. And in September, I finished my 3-year program of event management with the DHBW in Ravensburg. So it's not tourism, but nevertheless, it's a people's business. And I think there's a lot of similarities between those two study focuses. And basically, I just want to give you a little bit of an idea how I experienced my studies. And to start with that, I will give you a brief idea of how my program worked. So basically, I did a 3-year program with Leipziger Messe, which is one of the top 10 trade fair organizers in Germany. And I alternated between practical and theory periods every 3 months. So it would be 3-month work in Leipzig and then 3 months of studying in Ravensburg. And during my 3-year period, I got to experience 5 different departments within the company, which were the Congress Center, Human Resources, the Trade Show Project Team, Corporate Communication, and Controlling. And so, yeah, basically, because I stayed with the same company throughout these 3 years, I got to see a lot of different departments and really understand what the dynamics in the company were and what the dynamics in the industry were as well. So this was, I think, a very important thing during my studies, that I didn't have to change between different companies and do different internships, but actually stay with one company, because a lot of the times I could also see and understand problems and dynamics from different angles and from different viewpoints. For example, I remember one situation when I was in the project team. There were quite commonly, let's just say, tensions between project teams organizing the trade fairs and the marketing teams that would create all the marketing material for the trade fair. Because the project team, they know really well the target group, and they know, they basically, their target is to sell exhibition space, and they want to get customers, and they, of course, they know also their concept. But the marketing team, they see the bigger picture a lot of the times, and they want to make sure that the brands get a specific USP and design, and so they can be quite focused on that. And sometimes there will be questions that need to be discussed, or they want to discuss, because they consider them important for the USP. But the project teams, sometimes they think, we're spending a lot of time here discussing about marketing, whereas we would rather like to sell some space on the trade show grounds, basically. And the marketing, on the other hand, because they know so much about marketing, sometimes they thought they know everything about the target groups of visitors and exhibitors. But sometimes the project teams, because they were closer to them, they knew better. And so, because I got to stay with the two departments and I got to experience this problem or these tensions from the two sides, I actually got to understand a little bit where the problem was, and I got to appreciate the strength of the two departments. And I think for someone who actually spent time in the both departments, it will be a lot easier later on to work. Right, basically, as a project manager, it will be easier to work with the marketing, because I can understand a lot more what their arguments are and what their problems are. And then, of course, because I stayed with the same company, also every time I came back from my study time in Ravensburg and I changed the department, there were still a lot of things that I didn't need to learn again from the beginning. So I still knew all the software programs. I knew who was responsible for what. I knew the basic concept of the company. So I think there's a lot of time you can save. Your learning curve will actually be a lot steeper, because you don't need to have the time to really get into the company every time you arrive. So that's just saying that I think it's quite well when you do a program and you want to spend a lot of time in practical periods, that it can be beneficial to stay with one company. Another thing I think is very helpful is that basically you learn to handle stressful situations a lot better. And I think when you are young, there's just a lot of situations that can be stressful just because you are just inexperienced, and there's things that you have never done before, and that scares you. Say, for example, customer complaints. That's a good example for the tourism industry as well. Especially when it comes to holidays, people can get very emotional. It's something they've planned for a while. It's something they've spent money on. It's a very special time of the year they want to spend with their families. And so when there's something, not according to the plan, people can get very emotional. And I think handling this just needs a little bit of experience, of course. But at some point you need to get this experience. And this is why I believe it's good to get this experience in the framework of a dual study course or of practical training, because usually you still have someone by your side who will help you in case you don't know what to do, and you can watch those people and you can see how they react, and then obviously you will learn yourself. At some point you're going to have a complaint yourself that you have to deal with. And the more and more you get into these situations and you learn how to deal with them, the more and more you will learn that you can actually handle them. And so you will feel less insecure and it will be less stressful for you. I remember, for example, also in my study course, working in the human resources department, I was responsible for the interns. Very, very interesting project. I really liked it. But there was at some point a very high workload as well. And there was quite a workflow for the interns and that I had to take care of. And I needed to stay on track when it came to knowing what status each intern or intern application had and where I needed feedback. And so I had to learn how to prioritize and how to organize myself, so nothing would actually slip my mind. And I did that with simple things, just like to-do lists and reminders or resubmission folders. So obviously something that someone who has already had a few years of working experience already knows how to do, but you just gotta have this time when you start a job or you get into the working environment where you learn which tools work for you and how you can work well. And I think it's very good to have this time, not just directly after uni, when everybody expects you already to be ready to do the job. But when you are still studying, you still have that puppy bonus. And I think that's a really, really important thing, because when you are a student and everybody knows you're a student, everybody kind of expects you as well to make a few mistakes sometimes. And that's good. That's something you really want to use. And you want to make, a couple of stupid mistakes as well. Like, I don't know, I remember for once I forgot an appointment, which was of course very embarrassing, but it would have been even more embarrassing if I hadn't been a student anymore. And now it doesn't happen to me anymore because I organize everything really well. So there's a couple of mistakes that can be made during this time, and nobody will say a thing about it. And they will say, it's the student, it's still learning. But when you're done with your studies, people won't have as much understanding for that. I think it's also very good to find out during your practical periods what your strengths and weaknesses are, because you get to work with other people. You can also see what workload they can handle and how they organize themselves, how efficient they are. And by just comparing your own work to others or seeing, what others do, it will be a lot easier for you to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are as well. And I think you will only find that out most of the time just working on the job by doing it. You can't really find that out while you're still sitting in university. And I want to give you a good example on that as well. Because I have a colleague of mine, she studied event management as well. And event management people are usually quite extrovert people who like getting in touch with new people, who are very curious about new people, and who just like networking. But she was more like an introvert person. However, she was someone that had a very precise way of working and an analytical mindset. So during her studies, she spent some time, as I did, in the project team and the Congress Center and human resources and the controlling as well. And she found that in controlling, because you work with people from the company, you don't have to work with people from outside, and you can use your analytical mindset. She actually found that this was what she was really good at. So I think sometimes you can only find what you're good at by just trying different things, which is why I think it's also very important to have the opportunity to try different things while you study, while you are during the study program. And yeah, she's working in controlling now. She's doing her master's in controlling now. And that's just to point out that you need to get to know yourself, and you need to get to know your own strengths and weaknesses. And that will be a lot easier by just doing the job and comparing yourself to others as well. So yeah, to basically get the like put it in a nutshell, I think that when considering doing a practical training during your studies or trying to set up a program for that, I think there's a couple of things that I would say are beneficial. So one is that you stay with one company. Of course, it can be interesting to see different companies, but actually, if you stay with one company, you can have a steeper learning curve, and you can really understand processes and dynamics a lot more. And this is something very important also for developing your skills, your social skills, especially. And also, I think it's very beneficial to go through different departments to really see the different viewpoints and to experience different different areas of the industry, so that you can get an idea which industry or which area would suit your skill set the best. And last but not least, I think developing soft skills just need training and experience, and you just need to give it that time when you're young. And I think it's good to do it in a safe framework with the puppy bonus, so that it's a bit easier as being a student as well to sometimes make stupid mistakes. Yeah, so I hope that I could give a good idea on some of the advantages of doing a like dual study course like we did in Ravensburg, or developing a program like that could be similar. And thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Marie, for sharing with us your experiences. I was told that you would need to leave right now because you have some other errand to do. So if anybody has a question or a doubt regarding what Marie said, please speak now or silence forever. I just have one very quick question. You focused a lot on the fact that in your experience you stayed in one company and of course in different departments, so you really met as much as you could the reality of one specific business. In your opinion, do you think that being in one company, even though it was very enriching in the way you lived it, could have been limiting because you haven't met the reality of probably another similar company and see how they work under the same more or less situations? Do you think that that in a way was something that you did not have the chance to live? Or in your experience, being in one company and seeing the realities in many departments as you could, gave you enough background to move on and feel more confident later on?
That's a really good question. I think that because it also depends how when you work in a whole program like that. For example, in Ravensburg, all of my study colleagues, they also worked in different companies. So we actually discussed a lot about the experience we had. How do you actually do this in your company, and how do you get treated in this department, or how do you handle this problem in your company? So there's a lot of exchange going on that, which gives you the possibility to also get an idea of how the industry works and not only how your company works. But indeed, of course, it would be very enriching and I would be very curious to also spend some time in different companies. However, I think that the problem, or I think the advantage that a program like the program in Ravensburg has compared to other normal study programs is that you get this deep experience with the company. There's a lot of students who do 3 or 4 different internships and who have experience, but they are not as well prepared, I feel sometimes, for really starting on the job. So I think the question is really, as a student, do I really already know in which direction I want to go? Because then it's good to get this deep view into the company and into the processes, because then you can really understand also, from a management point of view, what can be made better in this company. You don't get to understand this when you only stay for 3 months. You don't get into that deep into the ideas of people, and because you don't get the different viewpoints, you can't fully understand the problems that you have in the company. But if you are a student who is rather still insecure about the choice of the job, then I think it's better to really get into different companies and get as much different ideas as you can get to just, get some impulse.
Okay.
Marie, just out of curiosity, do you plan to stay with this company after graduating?
Sorry? How long am I planning to stay?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, so I started my job in October. I'm a project manager now, which is very nice to say, not a student anymore. And I'm planning to stay maybe like 2 or 3 years from now, and then there's going to be a new decision made.
Okay.
Okay.
For my.
Okay, Marie, thank you very, very much for your time. If there are no more further questions, we can move on to 2 other students that are from our university here in Girona. And we're going to start with Carla Doria. And she's also going to give us her own experience. So please, Carla.
I have a presentation. I don't know if it's possible.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
Oops, it's a little bit. So, we can start. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so hello to everyone. Good morning. My name is Carla, and you will think who I am. So I'm a tourism student. I'm a tourism student that last year I did an Erasmus, and I recommend to all the people that they have to do it because it's an experience that they are going to grow up in a personal, of course, in a professional way. I went to Ravensburg, and you will think why I went to Ravensburg and not in another university. In my case, I love economics, I love business, and when I started the university, I was not really sure about if I have to study tourism or business, because I know that I want to be or try to be a hotel management, but I didn't know if the best option was to do tourism or business. So the thing is that when they say to me that I have to start to choose a university, I have a big list and I start searching information in the internet, and I found that in Ravensburg they give me the opportunity to do lessons about international business. So at that moment I didn't know that they work with a dual system, but when I arrived there I was more sure that I like this system. So, as I say, why Germany and why Ravensburg? So, I recommend to all the people that likes international business, and of course that they know that maybe they want to be a hotel management or something about relation about the business, that if they have the opportunity there, they can improve their knowledge about business. So this is why I decided to go there. And the thing is that in my case, that Stephanie's here and Thomas here, I have to say, first of all, thank you for the international office, because they help us a lot. For example, I know that, for example, my colleagues that they went to an Erasmus, they were really nervous because they don't know nothing about public transport there, about accommodation, and nothing about that. And for me, I remember that when they say to me, okay, you are going to Ravensburg, the international office, they send email to me and they say, no worry, if you want, we can find accommodation for you, and they explain to me how I can arrive there. So for me, when I arrived there, of course, I was nervous because it's a new experience, but at the same time, I was really secure because I know that if something happened to me, the international office will be there for help me. So the important thing, the education there, so the system in the university is really different than the system that it's here. I remember the first days that we do a meeting and they explained to us how it works. And I was really in shock because for me it was really, really new. So I was like, oh my God, what I'm doing here? So I don't know if it's a good option. So when I started the class, for me, the first shock was that the students are really professional students. I mean, I'm not saying that here we are not, but they are like more serious and the class is more serious. So the thing, when they explain to me, the students, that they are working and study and at the same time, I was like really interested about this system because I was thinking like, oh, I really want to have a system like this because, for example, in my case, that I really know what I want to be in the future, it was a good system for me to, future when I finish the degree to be more professional. I'm not saying that here I'm not, but I defend more that system. So for me, a problem maybe when I went there was the credits because here I had to do like 60 credits every year, and there I wanted to do 48. The thing is that there the lessons are different, so are less credits, and for example here I had to did I think 8 subjects, and there I did like 17. So it's a lot, and I remember that my colleagues, they do like 5 in a semester and me 9, so I was really busy, but at the same time was a good experience. So the lessons is the thing that for me it was more a shock, because it's not like here that maybe you have 2 hours of class and then the teacher talk, and then you have an exam or you are going to do a project or something like this. It's more like, I remember always my first class that they say to me, you have to write your name in a paper. And I was like, why? And this is why, because the teacher is always interacting with you, asking things to you. It's not like theory, it's indirect theory. So for me, this is it's a good way, and I defend a lot, really. And also, it's more practice, I think. And then the timetables, of course, it's not the same. In Ravensburg, they don't have like here, like every Monday you have, for example, in my case, I have hotel management. So, or French. It's like maybe during 1 week, you do only international business, and you have all the content in 1 week, and then you are really focused on it. And it's not like 2 hours, you have maybe class 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock. So the system is really, really different. So in my case, but I had to stay there 3 months, and finally I decided I wanted to stay more because it was a good experience, and I really liked the system that they work there. So I decided to stay 6 months. For me, I would like to stay there 9 months, but I had the problem that I had to do my internship. And now I'm going to say that how it works, the internship here also, it's a good way, but depends, of course, of the people. For me, I had, as I say, always in my mind that I want to be a hotel management, so I fight and I try my best to have an internship about hotel management, and I get it. And I have to say that in this case, normally the people, they do like 2 months and that's all, and in my case, I did 6 months. And I went in Murcia, that you will think, why Murcia? Because it's an autonomous community that the people don't used to go there. And I was thinking the same, but when I arrived there, I have to say that I grew up in a professional way, in really, really good, I think. So the thing is that I'm not saying that here the education or the university system is not good, because of course for me it was a really good way how to improve. And for example, I think in tourism, it's better to try different companies, not as the Mary, I think that she was, that she said that she thinks it's a good way to stay in the same company. But if you don't have clear ideas, so you have to be, you can go to different companies. So I think that in tourism industry, it's better if you try different companies, because as you know, there are different kinds of hotels and a lot of hotels, and in every hotel you can take like different things that you can learn, and maybe you are agree or maybe not. So that's all. So, and I will say that I recommend to all the people that you should do an Erasmus and more in Ravensburg, because you will learn a lot about dual system. And as you know, I defend a lot this system, and I think it's a good way to improve your skills, and you will have more knowledge for sure in a personal and of course in a professional way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carla. Since you're staying with us until the end of the session, we will have the questions at the end of all of the people who will speak now. Thank you for presenting your experience and entering also the internationalization aspect in this whole project. So now we would like to listen to our other student from our university, Jean Sarmati. So if you want, maybe you should come here, because this is the way that people that are online can listen to you, and they will not be able to listen to you there. You have no. Okay.
No, I don't have presentation.
So please, whenever you want.
This one? Good morning, welcome everyone. My name is Jo, I'm 23 years old, and I'm on my last year of the degree in tourism here in the University of Girona. I decided to study tourism because I think it's a university degree that offers me the opportunity to learn about different subjects that attract me, like law, marketing, economics. So it's for that reason that I decided to study tourism. In my third year at college, I do my internship in the tourist office of Calonge and Sant Antoni. It's a small village located in the middle of the Costa Brava. And I have had the opportunity to get more knowledge about the sector. There I learned about how to get in touch with a client, how to manage an event, and how to solve problems even under pressure. Thank you for that. I have more knowledge about the Costa Brava area, so that's one of the best things I have now. And I'm still working in the tourist office since April when I passed my oppositions exams. And it could be a pleasure for me to become one of the members of the Ntu Project, because the destination of Calonge and Sant Antoni participate in this project. And I think this is an opportunity for me and for the future students, because it's a good way to get to work and study at the same time if you want to be a professional, a good professional in the future. And well, I think this is all for me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jo.
Thank you.
Well, since you're also going to stay, we will have questions at the end of the session. So now we can pass once again to the business sector. And for that, we have with us Iger Leben, if I say well the name. Almost. I knew that there was a mistake there. Head of Human Resources at the Hotel Le Meridien Love in Croatia. So please, start whenever you can. Yes, please.
Hi, everybody. So, yeah, I'm the guy on the other side, on the private sector. 1 second.
You have the presentation.
Correct. Okay, first of all, this is my first presentation that I've given in the chapel, so I have to feel a little bit humble about it. Hope it's not going to go bad on me. Second of all, I hate to sit when I do presentations. So thank you very much for calling me and try to present actually our best practices. When I've spoken with you, David, he said go and speak about your best practices. And I said, okay, what do you want to hear about this? He said, just go and speak what you do with the students. I said, fine. And just shortly, just to get to know us, and I know Professor Jordi and was speaking about issues that they have small businesses and how these businesses have issues with resources and connecting with students. We are a big business. We passed the small business part a long time ago. So we have 7,000 hotels and 30 brands, which makes us the greatest hotel company, if not the best, greatest in the world. So, but I will not speak a lot about the company because this is not the intent. I will speak about our philosophy, how we like to approach students. The motto of the company is actually so simple, it can be put in this one sentence, and that is, we take care of our associates who will in turn take care of our guests. What it doesn't say at the end, if the guests are taken care of, it will bring you money. Yeah, but it has a good sound to it. When we started our cooperation with the faculty of the University of Economics in Split, actually it was on a pure voluntary basis. They didn't have it in their curricula. Most of the professors didn't want even to interact with the private sector, and we approached the university at that time, the Cathedral of Tourism, and said, let's do something together. We were like the pioneers of the income program in the long 2008 at that time. So we said, okay, let's do something. And I can tell you, this was the best part of the student practice that we had from that time onwards. Why? Because we engaged the ones that were so interested and keen in getting, because it was not an obligatory, it was not in their curricula, it was not there. So we scooped the 10% of the best students that really wanted an exposure to the private sector and to see how it goes in real life. So that was the first thing. Then we worked hard to make it a part of the curricula because of the greater good, which hurt my company. We made it a part of the curricula. Actually, the faculty made it a part of the curricula. And then the students had 200 partners from the private sector that they were sent to. So, and this was a learning curve for us as well, because we're trying to amend it a little bit now, because the private sector was not asked who are they getting. Yeah. So the faculty said, okay, you're going to get this 5, you're going to get this 5, you're going to get this 5, and that's it. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, because neither the professors nor the students know our culture of the company. They do not know what are our needs. Maybe we don't need an extrovert. Maybe we need an introvert on some positions. You know, we need different types for different positions. So it kind of didn't work out that well. And for me, I didn't feel anymore so special because I was a part of one club of 200. So it made me unhappy as well. And then from 2020, we hope to have a very serious and a good model where both sectors will interact together, meaning that we also will be asked about and will be part of the selection process, because tourism is not an easy industry, and hospitality even more. So it's not an industry or a business where, I don't know, you're going to have a peaceful family life. If you want that, then you can forget about it. Yeah? It's a very hectic, ever-changing organism, but on the other hand, tourism is something that is the most fast-tracking career sector that you can have. And when you present this to the students, it makes a lot of sense to them, and normally I tell them stories. I go to the university, and then I tell them that my first GM was a chief steward. Or actually, he started as a steward in London when he was 18, then he became a chief steward, then became an assistant F&B manager. By the time he was 29, he was a general manager of a 400 rooms, 5-star hotel on the Adriatic, on the Mediterranean, a part of a big international company. So these are kind of stories that, and they're true stories, don't get me wrong, these are not fictional stories. Yeah. These are kind of stories that before we went to universities, nobody was able to tell the students. That one of the students that went for this voluntary program is now head of department. Within the time of 5 years, she became head of department by also moving through different departments and searching for themselves. beauty of the whole program, what we do in Split, is that actually you can try and fail, because sometimes, especially when you're young, you do not know what you want in life. So you can try. When I go to university, everybody wants to be either a receptionist or the GM. It's either or they're over-ambitious, or the receptionist looks kind of very, very, very nice position to be at. So when we get them to the system, it's a totally different ballgame. Oh, I don't like reception that much. Could I move to reservation? Or I don't like that. Can I move to the marketing? Or can I try events management or something like that? And the beauty of it, yes, you can. Yes, you can, because it's a so fast growing and changing organism that everybody can try, fail, or try and succeed, but still don't like it, and then go to something else. For us, it's actually important that our students, when they come to our company, is that we get the basics right, so that we sort out our things on our end, so that we can present ourselves like we would like the students to perceive us. So the most important thing is the first impression. If you do not meet the students when they come, if you don't have a chat, if you don't acknowledge them, if you don't take them around the property, you are not doing a good job. What we try to do is actually, when the students come, we give them the same introduction like we give to the fully employed or the seasonal staff. Yeah? We treat them like they're fully employed, with all the rights and benefits. We had our challenges there in the first, and some resistance as well within the company, because what we were told, they are students, we cannot give them access to Opera. Opera is the PMS system that we use. So why can't you give them the access to Opera? And without Opera, on reception, you cannot do anything. You cannot do check-in, you cannot do check-out, you cannot do your billing or whatever you want to do. You cannot do it. So why can't you give them the access to Opera? Our IT manager said, they didn't sign the contract, they didn't sign the clause, they blah, blah, blah. So a lot of bullshit, yeah, basically. So I said, okay, fine. What do you want them to sign? We need those kind of, okay, they signed the clause. Can I get it now? We get it at the end. The students are learning. They are doing exactly what a fully employed are doing. And the worst case scenario, they're going to make a mistake. It's not to be a catastrophic mistake. It's going to be a mistake like every employee can do. Yeah? And this is a learning curve for them. So in what we see is best is let them handle situations like they're fully employed, integrate them as fully as possible. One of the things also that we try to stick to, every student gets one mentor, because without one mentor, without one person in charge of that student, the student gets lost. Or some people have time for him, some people don't have time for him, and the mentor is the guidance for the student within the company. And the last thing in getting the basics is you need to make this job training meaningful to them, especially to the new generations. They need to know what is the outcome for them. What are the outcome of learning of this? So what can they do after this when they learn this? Yeah? And so that it's important that there is a mentor there to explain them why they need to learn these basics, why they need to go through these processes and this process, so they could end up at one point there. This is our wall of fame, basically what we have. These are our legends, just out of curiosity. Our football team, our staff party, and those kind of things. So, which is all part of the integration. If it's going to be possible, I'd like to show you one video, which we learned a lot, and it is about the generation differences in the world. And there is no sound. Can we get sound?
Hi, I'm a baby boomer.
And I'm Generation Y.
I like to show dedication to my employer by working really long hours.
I don't really feel like I need to work long hours as long as I get my work done.
I'm excited when my workday starts.
I'm excited when my workday ends.
I like to have meetings in person.
I prefer email or voicemail.
I've worked hard to climb the corporate ladder.
I should already be at the top of the ladder. I mean, I have a degree.
I put in 60 hours at the office last week.
I'm taking next month off to go hiking in Malaysia.
I have a sense of entitlement.
Oh, so do I.
Hey, I like Maxwell House.
Oh, I prefer Starbucks.
I just got a Facebook account.
Oh, Facebook, good for you. That is so 2009.
I like competition.
I prefer collaboration.
I've heard of that.
Oh, now he doesn't know this, but I plan on getting his job when he retires.
She doesn't know this, but I'm never going to retire. Now, come on, we really need to work at getting along.
See, there you go with work again.
That's what I'm saying. You have no work ethic.
Well, that's because to you, working a half day means you leave at 5. You know what? You're right. We do need to try to get along.
That's what I think.
Okay, well, why don't we focus on what we admire about each other?
Great.
Well, if you think about it, your generation invented a lot of the technology we use.
Yes, but for you, it just seems to come so easily.
Well, only because we're practically playing video games in our cribs.
Yes, that's true. You did have a different upbringing, though. My parents are still married to each other. Yes, self-esteem, we thought that was very important, so we tried to pump your generation full of it, which is why for everything you got a participation ribbon.
You know, we could use a little more of that here at work. I mean, does anybody ever say, hey, thanks for coming to work on time, good job getting your work done? No, it's just like it's expected or something.
It is by those of us with a work ethic.
There you go again.
Hi, I'm a baby boomer.
And I'm Generation Y.
And we're Generation X, and we're stuck in the middle of all of this.
Both mentoring program and including students in the practical work, one of the biggest problems was generation gaps and generation differences. And when you surpass that, everything goes uphill. So I had my mentors coming to me and say, I cannot work with them, they're so, I don't know, untrustworthy, they go from one thing to another, they change focus, I cannot work that way. I said, listen, get along with it. They're a new generation. This is what we built. It's not the product of anybody else. It's just what we built as parents. So we need to stick out and give what we can. And that's how we work little by little, little by little. And we acknowledge the new things that the new generation wants. And it's not something like before. It's not something sitting and listening to the guy like me, ex cathedra, giving lectures, yeah? Or, oh, sorry, it doesn't work that way, yeah? Okay, better. I'm joking. So what we actually said to our mentors is go with the things they want. If they want constant feedback, give them constant feedback. I said, oh, I don't have time. Yes, you have time. Just give them on regular basis, on a daily basis. They like to hear, did they do a good job or did they not do a good job? Empower them. Give them the opportunity and the tools to work like the fully employed. And for God's sake, use different communication streams. Don't use the notice board. Use WhatsApp groups. Use Instagram because that's what the new kids like. Facebook, not so much. Like we have a Facebook account and we communicate through Facebook as well in a closed group. But the reaction what we get is not from the millennials. It's from the guys older than that. So when you do your business, when you run your businesses and you want to achieve something, you also have to think about the new generation on the workplace. And these are actually the students coming. Our hiring philosophy is a little bit different, which actually we as entrepreneurs feel that the system has failed us a little bit because at a certain point of time we were not getting the students that we would like to get when they exit the university. So we thought of our different hiring philosophy, and that is hire for attitude and train for skill. Yeah? Now with the Income Project, I hope that we can change that paradigm to a totally different level, that we can really hire for the skills after they exit the university. We also like, and it's part of our DNA, part of our culture, that we like to track the development of each student that comes in, not only student, each associate that comes into our company, and providing them with the means in any different ways as possible to get to the next level. Getting to the next level or achieving your maximum is one of normal people's drives, and it's something that everybody's aiming for. And we like diversity. One of the problems we had in Croatia that the students and working population in general is not movable as we would like it. So you will get the pool of people throughout within the 50-kilometer radius if you're lucky, and that's it. They didn't like to move. They didn't like to be exposed to different things. So that's, at one point we said, okay, we cannot work like that because there is nothing new in the system. So there are not new ideas and those kind of things. So we changed the paradigm and said, okay, we're going to buy accommodation. So we bought 12 flats for the packs of 42, and we started to get international students. We started to get international workers, not to replace our workers, but just to get that diversity there, to stir up things, to stir up new ideas in the workplace. What we work a lot is when everybody comes to our company is the EQ part. So IQ is what you get in your life. It is what it is, you know. But EQ, everybody can work on, and we focus a lot in the HR department, both the students and associates, to work on the EQ part, on the emotional intelligence, because at the end of the day, we are a people's business. We play on the emotions of our guests, on the emotions of our associates. So we really need how to handle them. One of the things that I say to the students when they enter is we do not want any exact copies of what we have. We want you to be yourself, to try to express yourself, because that's how we will get the most out of you. And there is no video, which is okay. Anyway, the main point of the student program in Le Meridian Lab in Croatia is basically the inclusion. Include the students in everything you do, give them things to do, and be aware of the generation differences. Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting us another type of reality in the private sector. And also speaking once again about the gaps that from one part the business is expecting and the academy is in a way preparing, not very well. It is true that the generational gaps you mentioned before is something we also face just by being professor and student, because we think we're teaching to ourselves in a miniature, and it turns out we're not so modern as we thought, and that's really big disappointment. And that is something we definitely have to work on. And finally, we have a last presentation that we will do online, I hope to God. And let's see how it works here, with Ana Maria Camp, who is a member of the Confederation, of the Spanish Confederation of Tourists. Oh, my sound? This sound? No, this works.
He connected the sound from the video.
Yeah.
So you should.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry,
Hello.
there was a problem. I was just presenting you.
Yes, I have heard your introduction, so that is why I have said hello, just for you to know I was here.
Very good. We had some technical problems, that's why we were not certain that you were listening to us. So, well, I want to welcome you. Good morning, and I hope you have heard part of our session from the beginning. So please, you can now share your own opinion and experience regarding this training program.
Yes, of course. So thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. We are, as you know, we are representing the hospitality sector in Spain. We are a confederation which aims to look forward the best way of how to manage hotels and apartments in Spain. So that's our work here. We are in Spain, but we are also members of HOTREC, which is the European Confederation of Hotels, Restaurants and Bars. So here we are because we are members of Ntu Project. You have already heard Sina's presentation. So I am going to talk about the NTG Online Matrix, which is a tool. I will go through my presentation, which I have on PowerPoint. But first of all, I just wanted to say you a few words, because I am going to talk about the online tool, which we hope to have online by the end of December or beginning of January. So what I'm going to tell you now is not available at the moment because we are just finishing it with our ICT developer. but we hope to have it before Christmas or at the end of the year. So I hope to know how to do this, to share my screen. So I think, can you see my screen,
Yes.
the PowerPoint screen?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yes? Okay, okay, so here we are. So how can, now, because now, here it is. So what is the aim of the NTG skills matrix? It tries to present the different digital, green, and social skills. This is where our aim, we are only talking about digital, green, and social. At the end of the presentations, we have the list of these different skills. And above everything, what we try to give is an overview of how to manage these skills for employees and employers. It means we want to have an online tool which helps employees, you can see it here, which helps these four stakeholders to know how to deal with skills. So public authorities will find on this online tool this skills gap and which skills should be developed. It means that having a look at the online matrix, the public authorities will know which are the most important skills for our professionals. So they will know where they have to put more emphasis on developing skills strategies. Training institutions will be able to also to know which are the skills that should be trained on these different enterprises. So they will be able to give more training courses on these skills which are needed for employees. Employers will be able to know which are the skills they have to look for on an employee. And they will also have the possibility of developing professional careers for their employees. And finally, employees will find a place where to know which skills they are supposed to have, and so they will know both things. They will know, once I have a skill, which is the best job position I can look for, and also if I am already on a job position, which is the improvement I am meant to do to go forward my professional career, okay? So, as you know, NTG project is divided into 5 subsectors: accommodation, food and beverage, visitor attractions, destination management, and travel agents and tour operators. We are going to make one online matrix for each of the 5 subsectors. So which are the way that the user will, which is the way he will follow to find the skills he's meant to have. First of all, we will ask on the online tool which is the subsector you are working on. So once you are there, you will see a query of which is the size of enterprise, if it is a micro, small, medium, or large enterprise, which is the functional area on each subsector. For example, on the accommodation subsector, this will be if you are working on front desk, on housekeeping, on maintenance, or in which functional area you're working, and which is your level of seniority. This is like this because we have found out that the skills required for each employee are not the same, not the skill, but the level of competence on that skill is not the same if you are working with several people on the same department, or if you are working alone, or if you are on the basis of the pyramid, or if you are the head of the department. So once we have this, once we have the subsector, the functional area, the size, the level of seniority, we will be given which skill you need and which level of competency. And then for that skill, the online tool will suggest you where to train for that skill. So what do I mean by level of competency? Once we have the skills on a list, we have been looking for differences between employees. So we have this European qualification framework, this EQF, which gives us 8 levels of competences for each skill. This list gives us, on level 1, I am not able to do my work if I am not under supervision, and on level 8, I am the person who gives the instructions for every employee. So among level 1 and level 8, there are 8 levels which give us the level of competency on which I am meant to be able to develop that skill. So when we see the result of the query, I will have my answers to if I am working on the accommodation subsector and if I am on a very big enterprise, I am on the functional area housekeeping, and I am on level 2 of seniority, I am the senior management, for example, I should have these 50 skills, each of one I will be given if I am meant to have that skill on level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 8. Once I have the skills and the level of competency, I will have another question which will ask me which is the country I am living on in Europe, and I will have a list of training institutions which will offer me where and how to train to achieve that concrete level of competency for that concrete skill. Okay? So, for example, this will work like this. I have here an example for the accommodation subsector. I will have this query on which is your subsector. You see on the red squares, which will be the answer I will give to the online tool. Then I will say I am working on a small enterprise. Then I will say I am on this maintenance task or functional area, and I will say I am the senior management, for example. So as a result, I will have which are the skills I need and on what level of competency, on this 1 to 8 level of competency. How have we done this work? Who is being working on this? We have created 5 different sector support teams, one for each of the 5 subsectors. On these sector support teams, we have the different partners of the Ntu Project, but we also have external members, which are participants from the industry, from the academic world, and from the public sector world, okay? So they have been given advice to us on which are the level of competencies required for employees on the different functional areas, okay? So, for example, for building the accommodation subsector matrix, we have been on touch with different human resources directors of different hotels and with different ICT developers who have been telling us which are the skills they require on their personnel from the different functional areas. Okay, so we have been working with them. We have also had some academic experts who have given us advice on which are the courses we can make and which are the courses we cannot make. This means that maybe we have been thinking of a very specific skill which needs a very, very high level of competency, but we wanted to develop a very long course. So working with the academic sector, we have reached an agreement of how to do this training on a shorter time, gap of time, okay? That's why that has been their role. This is the tree of how this has been working. You can see now, for example, you can see here the working package 3, which is the name of our package in the NTG project. We have this sector digital expert, sector green expert, and the social expert with the different external advisors. Okay, and here are the different skills which we have been working on. Okay, so these skills are the result of a research done by Breda University, and here we have the different digital, social, and green skills. So for digital skills, we have been working on information and data literacy. Sorry, there's a mistake here. We have been working on skills about communication and collaborations. Also in digital content and creation, safety, problem solving, use of specific software, use of augmented and virtual reality, and use of robotics and augmented intelligence. So once I go into the online matrix, I will see which of these skills are required for my job position, for my specific job position, and on what level of competency. Here you have the green skills. Okay, so these skills talk us about how we interact with the environment. Okay, and the social skills, which talk us about how we manage to deal with other people. Other people which can be our partners or other employees, or other people which are the guests of the different subsectors. Okay? Here you have a look at the metrics as it is now. You won't see this as it is in the online tool, because what the ICT developer is doing now is managing to have this into something more friendly. Okay, so but just for you to understand a little bit, at the above you can see the different sizes of enterprises. You can see the different functional areas. You can see the different level of seniority, and you can see the different skills. Okay, so at the end, after your query, you will see if you need this skill on a level 4, 5, 6, 1, 3, 4, depending on these 4 dimensions we had already talked, depending on which is your subsector, which is the size of enterprise, which is the functional area, and which is your level of seniority. You will have these differences by requirements of NTG skills. Okay, so in 10 minutes, this is what I can tell you about the online matrix, which as I mentioned before, we hope it will be available by the end of the year. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope this has been clear for you.
Thank you very much, Ana Maria, for presenting us the New Tourism Generation Online Matrix. And with this presentation, basically, we have finished the presentations of everyone we had invited today. So this is now the moment that you can ask questions to everyone that is here, online and offline, regarding any doubts, questions, remarks you want to make based on everything you have heard until now, different experiences. So please, feel free. Yes? Just the microphone, please. Cristina, el micrófono, por favor. What was that?
To keep us awake, I think.
Yeah, please don't sleep.
Thank you. In your presentation, you made references, yes, to the input which students can give in terms of ideas and bringing sort of thinking out of the box. I would like to hear the experience of the student who went to Ravensburg and gone through the process for 6 months. whether she was, in a way, successful to even do small changes in the way the company she was working with do things. Okay. No, I mean, one of the potential of students, universities is going to the industry, is coming up with ideas, thinking out of the box. I mean, your mindset is not already put in a way of thinking that how the company's culture thinks, for example. And quite rightly, the HR director of the Meridian, excuse me for not remembering your name, made reference to this. From your experience, were you able to do some, changes in the way the company worked for during those 6 months, in the way the company addresses things, in the way bringing in fresh blood? Thank you.
I think we need to clarify the international experience, because I think there may be a misconception. If we get international students from other universities, they are not placed in a company. They are, so that was, I guess, a misunderstanding. They are strictly in the theory part of our program. We have a lot of lecturers coming from the industry. I think this is what you were referring to when you talked about having practical insights and getting a lot of company views, but they are brought into the university, so the students are not placed in companies if they only come as international students, staying for 3 or 6 months.
But I can tell you from our side, we actually have a program in place that. To that one.
So they can hear you.
Okay, sorry. So we have a program in place not only for students but for everybody in the company. If they have an idea and the idea gets implemented, they get incentivized. We send them on a trip or anywhere else. So it doesn't mind where the idea comes from. And it can be also a small idea in the operational process, or it can be a grand idea. It doesn't matter. As long as it's successful and it gets implemented, they get incentivized. So, and we discuss these ideas. We have an HOD meeting, which is kind of heads of operation, heads of departments meetings. We discuss these ideas once per month and see what is implementable. Not all ideas are going to be great, but in some ideas you can also find, like what mostly we find in students when they give ideas, the idea is great in its essence. It needs just a little bit of tweaking normally to be sustainable in the operation. Yeah.
Here, I have a question. Our business partner, Igor, that's his name.
Yeah. Don't worry, all Americans say hi, Igor.
He mentioned how we are in the process of improving some of the current practices that we have, in particular, allowing our business partners to actually go through the selection process, to lead the selection process, as opposed to what we still have in place where employers really don't have a say. They can't pick. We just send them students and say, okay, you go to his hotel, and that's it. He's basically stuck with what the students that we send to them.
And the students are stuck as well because they don't have a say as much as well.
Exactly. So I would like to hear from some of you, the others that are present here today, other universities, of course, other than Germany, because we know your model. Do you have, and you probably do have, some sort of a student placement program or cooperation where you send students to companies, but what are your experiences? Do you have a situation that we just described in Croatia, that neither students nor employers have a say in where they go? Or do you have some sort of a situation where the employer and the student, they can express where they want to, which particular industry, hotel, lodging, or event management, a restaurant industry they would like to try themselves in? Okay.
In our case, with the Income Project, we've allowed the students to give their preference.
Outside of Income Project.
Okay. All right.
My understanding, because we don't actually work at the faculty, is that the university provides a list of potential companies with whom the students can work. Having said this, they are free to find their own employer, let's put it that way, though they're not being paid. And obviously, if someone has found his own employer, then it's a choice. And obviously, the employer must have accepted it through some sort of communication. So yes, they are free to choose, so long as they fit within certain criteria.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we better stand.
Okay.
Within our hi again. So for those online, I'm Goretti Silva. I just spoke a few minutes ago about the Income Project. But talking about other experiences in IPVC, we do have other ways of approaching university business cooperation, not just traineeships. And for those other ways, for the other subjects, we do have privileged and try to implement work-based approaches or project-based approaches. And those approaches give the students the opportunity to look at a list of projects that are available. And those projects are real, how do you say, real life, real context projects with real companies or with real organizations. And the organizations don't really have the chance to choose the group of students that will work with them, but the students have the opportunity to go over a list of projects and choose the ones that best fit their motivations and that best fit their, area of working they would like to approach. Therefore, we now are developing student-centered approaches. In the future, we will get even better perspectives of bringing those perspectives together as within Income. But yes, we try to favor the students' perspective of what they would like to work with. And then we believe, from my experience of 10 years doing so, the projects they deliver in the end, they are much better and with better level of delivery, because they have been working in what they felt comfortable and what they felt motivated to.
In our experience in the University of Girona, for the training program, we have a specific person that's basically like a mediator. And even though we have a lot of students, because the number of students we have every year is about 120, placing the right business for that profile is not a very easy job. Especially in the beginning, what we did were more like personal interviews with the students to see their profile, because some businesses desired a specific profile. They wanted someone that spoke very well specific languages, that was very responsible, et cetera, et cetera. So we could not send anyone, obviously. And on the other hand, another issue we have is that some students have very clear mind about what they want to do. So it's easy for them to find the appropriate business because they already have a profile made. But there are many students, because they're in the tourism industry, that they're still, traveling with the idea. And even though we have the training program in the third year, that means that more or less you have done many subjects and you have some idea of what the tourism sector offers to you, they still do not have a clear idea of what they want to do. So even when you speak with them, you don't know where to land them. And I think this is a problem because maybe from the beginning they haven't really understood how a business works. And they thought they had time and they just leave it in time. So I think if they see from the beginning, when they enter their studies, this is the world, you have to enter into work, so think now, decide, make a choice, see your possibilities. Maybe that will motivate them to have a more clear idea of what they want to do. I do understand that when some students start studying tourism, they think, okay, this is going to be fun, it's going to be tourism, so we're going to travel a lot and we're going to see things and it's a nice, comfortable study. But then again, it's not the case. When you have to go work, you have to work like everybody else, and businesses do expect a specific profile from you. So I think that the earlier they understand that they have to fit in some shoes, the easier it's going to be for them to decide if they do like, for example, hospitality, or maybe they like to do something different in the tourism sector. But they have to start finding their place in it as soon as possible. In any case, in what we are doing now, in terms of a training program, is to have a list, and we have a software with the businesses and the different offers they are offering, students get to choose from all the possibilities they have which one they consider is best for them. And for some occasions, if we know that there are specific profiles, we speak with them before. If you want to, we try to orient the ones that are a bit lost and they want to find out the best way to spend those few months. But still, it is true that the private sector, even though that student says, I want to work in the hotel industry and this I would really love to work in Ritz-Carlton, and they enter there and they do not fit in. So what you want to do and what you can do are two things that we need to work before they actually enter there. So I think that even the personal interview that we did and the personal contact we wanted to have with students is not enough. So we need to do that from the first day they enter here and not wait till the third year, for example, in our case. That's why we think that when they start their studies, the sector has to be there present somehow from our part as academics and also the sector again. Yes.
Okay, it's my turn. As concerning University of Bergamo, in our experience, students sometimes are not conscious about what to do during the internship. In our study plan of our master degree, students are required to do a traditional internship in the second year. So sometimes they get aware about the opportunities, what to do during the courses, because we have different disciplines. So sometimes we invite also companies to have lessons and to present opportunities about internship in hotels, travel agencies, DMOs. And we have two different ways to present opportunities, and a more formal, and we have a placement office that usually update all the opportunities related to tourism industry, and a more informal, because students during lesson and during meeting hours come to us and ask for suggestions, so we can get directly in touch with the companies and try to find a solution and the suitable option for students, because sometimes they think that tourism industry is only about accommodation, but it is not in this way. So they get aware about the opportunities from the tourism industry as a whole during lessons, because they can learn more during these lessons.
Okay, we have one more question that is online from Herminia Andreu from France. She says, hi, our problem are the microcodes which have difficulties to understand the benefits of an international exchange Erasmus. How do you manage or communicate it? Of course, our students are already in a cooperation system between the company and the school center. They have 60% of their time at work, and they're paid for it so. So basically the question is, the problem are with the micro businesses, so which have difficulties to understand the benefits of an international exchange Erasmus, and how does the program think of managing, communicating that?
Who should address the question? Well, we, not being a representative of a micro business, well, we have other representatives of the business sector in the room. I don't know if Paulo would like to answer or contribute to that, or even Ricardo. But Paulo, would you like? Well, not to have a change. Okay.
If I understood right the question, I think the problem is for the micro business is the priority that you have, and the time that you have to dedicate, to focus on the training, trained student inside the company. I think, well, we have been in Brussels two weeks ago, and I tried to understand better why was the problem to put together industry and university. And I think the most important thing from both sides are to understand which is the good things that can come out from this partnership. And I think at the moment, not all the industries and especially the micro business not understand yet what is the
the real good thing that can come out from this mutual partnership.
If I can add to what Paulo just said, having to deal with many micro businesses within my 10 years of project-based approaches, well, I do work with many micro businesses. Most of my partners within my subject for developing projects with students are micro businesses. They do take the time to speak with us, to get the students to their facilities and to go over the challenge they are facing and how can we help them to develop something to work with that challenges. And they do understand the benefits of getting new, fresh ideas coming out of university. But yes, it takes a precious moment of their time, which is not going and talk to a client or not going out and sell some products, whatever they are doing within their businesses or doing an outdoor activity. Therefore, every moment is precious for them as they are very little teams, very small teams. Although once we get them, we gain their attention and how in the near future or in a further ahead future, they can get some benefits, and if not totally perceived as their benefits, the society as a whole, the students themselves will benefit from their precious moments. They do work with us. So I every year cooperate with about 10 small micro businesses, and in the end, we do believe they get a good perception that their benefit is not to a great deal, but it's some, at least ideas, at least freshness coming from the university team. But in the end, the students do get a lot from that cooperation, and they perceive that if not for myself, for the student at least, I will be there for the university. So that's the way they get involved in our project. It takes a lot of our emotional as well to be with them and to understand them and to be actively engaged, but it works. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, bringing the international part in it, micro-businesses not always have enough resources that can deal with different languages and receive different students from international contexts. The problem is the same. They don't have enough time to deal sometimes with getting students into their operational activity. And on top of that, they sometimes lack the language skills to welcome international students. So it's an additional problem that can be overcome probably in different contexts where the businesses are more internationally, in a more international context, and they are already ready to at least communicate with these international students, come from different cultural and language contexts that would add to the already identified challenges.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other question or comment? Well, if not, thank you very much, everyone, for being here, for assisting, for listening to the opinions and experiences of different members and different perspectives of this product. We hope it really goes well. Yeah, everyone does. So if there is nothing more to say, thank you very much. And what? Oh, and we'd like to thank a lot our technician, Luis Sanz, for helping us with the connection and with all the problems we had here. And we all faced them, and everything went very, very well. And thank you very much once again for assisting. Have a nice day.